Hello class, sorry this is so late for me posting this to Canvas. It's not usually going to be like this. Usually I should have something posted by 7:30 each morning, at least while we're all virtual. Today was just a little different because we were trying to figure out the whole all virtual thing. So be checking your Canvas every day, at least this week. And then if we're all virtual after Thanksgiving break, make sure you're checking it then as well. Hopefully we're not like this very long. I'd like for us to all be in class, but this is what we have to do for now. So we're going to do it and we're going to get through it together. So just make sure you let me know if you have any questions. So today we're going to be talking about factoring. In Algebra 1 you learned how to factor. We're going to learn factoring of different types of polynomials in the future, but today I wanted to do a quick factoring review of what you learned in Algebra 1. So in Algebra 1, you learned how to factor polynomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. So there was understood to be a 1 in front of that x squared. No other number besides the 1. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is factoring polynomials of that form. That way you can kind of get a refresher on it and be ready for tomorrow's lesson where we have another number besides 1 in front of that x squared. So make sure you're writing this down, having these in your notes. It'll be really good to have these in your notes. So I have this little handout type thingy. I'm going to be filling it out as we go. Once again, like I said, this would be really good to have in your notes. So today we're factoring polynomials when the degree of our polynomial is 2, aka it's a quadratic. It's also going to have 3 terms. So we would call that a trinomial. So we're going to be dealing with quadratics that are all trinomials. And then, like I said on the previous slide, our leading coefficient so the coefficient of the squared term is 1. So those are the type of polynomials we're looking at today. Like I said, you should have seen this in Algebra 1. So, once again, it's the form x squared plus bx plus c. We're going to be using this little x over here to factor today. So we'll put my c value, we'll always put my c value in the top of our x, so you always create your x. We'll put our c value in the top of the x, we'll put our b value in the bottom of our x. And so whenever we're factoring, we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give me my c value, and also at the same time add to give me my b value. Hopefully that makes more sense once we jump into some examples. But first, let's look at our steps to factoring success. So step 1, you want to draw your 2 sets of parentheses and fill in the variable. So you want to fill in your c value and your b value. Draw your parentheses. Actually, scratch that. Draw your parentheses and put whatever variable you're dealing with in your parentheses. So if it's x squared plus 3x plus 2, you're dealing with x, so you'd put an x at the beginning of each set of parentheses. Step 2. In your x puzzle, put B, I'll say it like this. Fill in C and B value. So once again, you always put your C up top in the multiplication spot, and you'll put your B in the bottom of the X in the addition spot. Step 3, you're going to ask yourself, what will the signs be? Is it going to be plus plus in my parentheses? Is it going to be minus minus, plus minus, minus plus? That's step 3. And I'll show you a little trick here in a second to be able to figure that out. Number 4, solve the puzzle and put it in your parentheses. And then step 5, check your work using FOIL or double distribution, or however you call it. Those are our 5 steps. We want to draw our sets of parentheses, fill in the variable we're dealing with. Step 2, in your X puzzle, fill in your C and B values. C goes up top for the multiplication spot, B goes in the bottom of the X for the addition spot. Then you ask yourself, what will the signs be, and fill those in. Solve the puzzle and put it in parentheses, and then check your work using FOIL or double distribution. So down here I have an example. Factor x squared plus 4x plus 3. And so we're just going to kind of look at the steps and how they look. So our step 1 says draw our parentheses and fill in the variable. We drew our 2 sets of parentheses. We were dealing with x, so we filled in x to our parentheses. So there's step 1. Step 2, in your X puzzle, fill in the C and B values. So our C value is 3, so that goes up top to the multiply spot. Our B value is 4, so that goes in the bottom of the X to the addition spot. Step 3, what will the signs be? So here's a little trick that I use. I just memorized this little chart that I've come up with. If your equation starts off as plus plus, and I'm talking about these signs right here. It's not very good circles. These signs right here, if your polynomial starts off as plus plus, then the 2 signs in your set of parentheses will both be plus plus. If those 2 signs, if the first one's a negative, second one's a positive, then your 2 signs will both be negative. If the first one's plus and the second one's minus, or if they're both minus minus, then your 2 signs will either be plus minus or minus plus. So in this case, for this example, it starts off as plus plus, so I know my 2 signs are going to be plus plus. So I filled in my signs. Now we're solving the X puzzle. Once again, we want to see which 2 numbers multiply to give us 3 and also add to give us 4 at the same time. So I'm thinking of factors of 3. Well, there's only 2 factors of 3, 1 and 3. So I need to check. They do multiply to give me 3. Now I need to check to see if they add to give me 4. They do. So I fill in my X puzzle with this plus 1, this plus 3, meaning positive, and then I fill it into my parentheses over here. So me factoring x squared plus 4x plus 3 turns out to be x plus 1 times x plus 3. And then my last step is check your work using FOIL. X times x gives me x squared. X times 3 gives me 3x. And then 1 times x gives me x. And then 1 times 3 gives me 3. So that all checks out, and it does work, so I know this is my polynomial factored. Hopefully that makes sense. We're about to do a few more examples to hopefully help you make even more sense of it. So, let's move on to some examples. So example 1, we have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So my first step, I'm going to draw my parentheses and fill in the variable. I'm dealing with x, so it's going to be x and x in my parentheses. Now, I'm going to create my x puzzle. My c value always goes up top. So my c value is 6. My b value is 5. So I'm looking for values, numbers, that multiply to give me 6 and add to give me 5. So I'm thinking of multiples of 6, or factors of 6. So 2 factors of 6 are 1 and 6, because 1 times 6 gives me 6. Does 1 times 5... Hold on, I skipped a step, I apologize. So we filled in our x puzzle with our b and our c. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Once again, I apologize. Step 3, I'm asking myself, what will the sign be? Well, based on my previous slide, it starts off as plus plus. So I know my 2 signs are going to be plus and plus. Now I can solve the puzzle. I know I'm going to have 2 positive values. So once again, I'm looking at 1 times 6. 1 times 6 gives me 6, but it does not add to give me 5. What are some other factors of 6? Well, there's 2 and 3. 2 and 3 multiply to give me 6, and look at that. They add to give us 5 as well. So now I can fill in my 2 and my 3. And so now I know x plus 3 times x plus 2 gives me x squared plus 5x plus 6. I can check my work by foiling. X times x gives me x squared. X times 2 gives me 2x. 3 times x gives me 3x. 3 times 2 gives me 6, which gives me x squared plus 5x plus 6. So I do know that this is my answer. X plus 3 times x plus 2. It might seem a little confusing at first, hopefully not. But if it is, if you have any questions, please let me know. Let's look at number 2. We'll go step by step again. So number 2, x squared minus 9x plus 20. So step 1, I'm drawing my parentheses, filling in my variable. Dealing with x once again, so I'm filling in x. Then I create my x puzzle. 20 goes up top. Negative 9 goes in the bottom. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to give me 20 and add to give me negative 9. So there's step 2. Step 3, I'm asking, what will the sign be? It starts off, first sign is minus, second sign is plus. So let's go look at what I said it would be. First sign is minus. Second sign is plus. So I know my 2 signs are going to be negative, negative. So negative, negative. So once again, looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give me 20, add to give me negative 9. So I'm looking at multiples of, or factors of 20. Factors of 20 are 1 and 20. Those do not add to give me negative 9 though. Negative 2 and negative 10 do not add to give me negative 9, but negative 4 negative 4, and negative 5, multiply to give me 20, and add to give me negative 9. So I know these are my numbers that I'm filling in to my parentheses. X minus 4 times x minus 5. Factoring them or foiling them to check my solution. X times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20, which gives me x squared minus 9x plus 20. So I do know that these factors work. My answer is x minus 4 times x minus 5 for number 2. Number 3. Step 1, draw my parentheses, fill in my variable. Once again, it is x. That should be an x right there. I apologize. X squared minus 4x minus 32. So there's my first step. I drew my parentheses and filled in the variable. Second step, fill out my puzzle. My C value goes up top, negative 32. My B value goes on the bottom, negative 4. There's my step 2, looking for numbers that multiply to give me negative 32, add to give me negative 4. Now I'm filling in which signs are going to be in my parentheses. It starts off as minus minus, so I know that my signs are either going to be plus minus or minus plus. It doesn't matter which order they go in, just as long as the correct number gets the correct sign. So it's going to be plus minus, or if you want to put minus plus, you can. So once again, I'm looking for factors of 32. So numbers that multiply to give me negative 32 and add to give me negative 4. So let's just think of positive 32 for now. And what numbers multiply to give me 32? There's 1 and 32, 2 and 16, and then 8 and 4. Those are all my factors of 32. So I want to think of ones that might add or subtract to give me 4. That would be 8 and 4 in this case. Now it gets a little tricky here because I've got to figure out which one's positive and which one's negative. Because like over here, I've got a plus and a minus. So one has to be a positive, one has to be a negative. I can't just randomly pick one. One of them is going to be negative. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to give me negative 32 and add to give me negative 4. Well, when we're adding numbers and get a negative, the bigger number is going to be the negative one. So in this case, it's going to be negative 8 and a positive 4. So that means 4 goes right here and 8 goes right here. That is very specific. Like I said, you can't just pick and choose where they go. I've got to think about my adding down here to get my negative 4 and which number would make it negative 4. So let's check our work by foiling. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32, which gives me 8x squared minus 4x minus 32. So it checks out. Here's my answer for number 3. And our last example, number 4. Number 4. Last example. Step 1, drawing my set of parentheses, filling in my variable. Step 2, create my x puzzle. Put my C value up top, negative 14. My b value in the denominator, not the denominator, this isn't a fraction, but in the bottom of my x. So 5 goes in the bottom. Step 3. What will the sign be? It starts off as plus minus. So I know I'm going to have plus minus or minus plus. I generally put the plus one first always, but it doesn't matter which one comes first, just as long as you get the correct number with the correct sign. So now I have to solve my puzzle, looking for numbers that multiply to give me negative 14, add to give me positive 5. So some factors of 14 are 1 and 14, 2 and 7. I know it's going to be 2 and 7 because those would be the only two numbers that could add or subtract to give me 5. Once again, I have to figure out which one gets which sign. Well, 5 is positive, so that means the bigger number is going to get the positive value. Smaller number is going to get the negative value. So I get x plus 7 times x minus 2. Let's check it out, see if it works. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. That gives me x squared plus 5x minus 14. So this checks out. This is my answer for number 4. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Our assignment today will be a worksheet titled Factoring Review Worksheet. It'll be on Canvas, so be looking for that. Either print it off at home if you have that capability and work it out, send a picture and submit it on Canvas, or you can just look at the worksheet on your phone or your computer and then do work on a separate sheet of paper and send a picture of that to Canvas. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow with another recording up, so be looking for that. Like I said, it should be earlier than today.